Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest danger to our planet is the very belief that someone else will save it. With this notion in mind, Team Bubbles, comprising of myself, Iffah Afrina, with my colleagues Zhee and Shahkeerah, we present to you our proposal entitled Poli-seas to Save the Seas. In this presentation, we will first lay down the problems for us to understand what is currently going on. Second, we will explain the objectives that we wish to achieve from our proposal. And third, the problem that we wish to address. And fourth, the solutions to said problem. And fifth, we will talk about the feasibility of our solutions. And lastly, the timeline of its implementation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it must be noted that our oceans are severely polluted. Malaysia is the 5th global plastic polluter of the oceans, with million tons of its plastic ending up in the ocean each year. And what happens as a consequence? Marine life gets entangled in or would ingest the plastic debris. They would suffocate and then they would die. Next, ladies and gentlemen, our oceans are also the Earth's largest carbon sink, which takes up global carbon emission. Hence, the ocean can actually be our solution to climate change. With this in mind, our objective is simple. We want to improve the structural approach in preserving the environment, combating marine pollution, and protecting marine life. In doing so, we wish to address one specific problem in regards to plastic pollution and how plastic waste in Malaysia is poorly managed, and thus it ends up in the ocean and affecting marine life. To do this, ladies and gentlemen, we have identified 3 sub-issues. First, how plastic pollution is caused by unsustainable food packaging. Now, packaging in Malaysia takes up the biggest market share of plastic. And what must be noted is that the local recycling industry does not recycle low-quality plastic, such as food packagings. Hence, this would end up in landfills and then in the oceans. Next, plastic pollution also persists because of the lack of recycling facilities and resources that are available. Although we do have the 3R waste minimization policy that was aimed to reduce plastic pollution, recycling centers that we have are mainly concentrated in main cities to the exclusion of rural areas. Now, in a study conducted, 47% of Malaysians have stated that if the government provides plastic waste bins for them to be able to separate rubbish, they would be happy to participate in recycling. Lastly, we acknowledge that the problem to plastic pollution is the lack of capacity building and comprehensive environmental education, because our environmental education only imparts mere knowledge instead of instilling consciousness, awareness, and sensitivity. Hence, it can be seen that our education also lacks education for the environment, and it's also not emphasized on all levels, and it's mainly focused on students, when in fact, all parties play an important role in saving the seas.
And I'll take it on from here, moving on to our proposed solutions. There are 2 branches to this. First is our legal approach, and second is improving accessibility and capability. So on the legal approach, we intend to introduce mandatory targets of recycled content in food packaging through a Sustainable Food Packaging Act and enforcing it through penalties. So through this act, we intend to mandate all factories within the food industry to have at least 50% of their food products with the packaging made of 100% recyclable materials, and this will be enforced through penalties. Now, moving on to improving accessibility as well as capability, first we propose to provide more recycling centers and bins to the public and housing areas with emphasis on proper collecting schedules, and this is an example of the drop-off stations that we intend to implement. Second is to impose volume-based waste fee system for non-recyclable materials, where the fee will be determined by the volume of disposed waste and charged to households. This way, consumers would be more encouraged to purchase products with sustainable packaging. And last but not least is to enhance our environmental education. we intend to shift the education framework from educating about the environment to educating for the environment. And this would in turn will be able to continue the plans to introduce environmental studies into the school syllabus with a comprehensive curriculum which includes issues of sustainability, recycling, and climate change. And this has been implemented in Australia to equip all Australians with the knowledge and skills required to live sustainably.
Moving on to our next part is regarding the feasibility of our solution. The first thing that we would like to emphasize is that our policy is known as a cost-efficient policy. This is because we are emphasizing on recycling, as we all know that the annual average cost of disposal material, which is unrecyclable materials, is very severely high, which is $90.25 per ton. However, the annual average cost of recycling is just $49.82. So if we actually promote recycling, we could actually save up to 45% of the money through recycling. Therefore, we believe that our policy is cost-efficient policy. Moving on, we have actually two countries that represent a proven successful case study regarding our policy. The first one is the Germany's Green Dot, which was the first world dual recycling system for collecting waste from household and businesses. From this project, we have realized that the recycling rate has tremendously increased from 3% to 56.1%, which shows that how effective recycling is to combat pollution. Moving on to the next country, which is the South Korea or the Republic of Korea, where through their volume-based fee policy, it has been shown that their annual waste has reduced up to 27%, and the recyclable material has increased tremendously up to 35%. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now show to you guys the timeline of our policy. We have actually divided our policy into three different sections, which is the short term, mid-term, and long term. For the short term, we aim to somehow establish this policy within 1 year, whereas for the midterm, we aim to establish this policy within 3 years and long term within 5 years. Such as so, our short-term policy, we would like to have a specific agency, and also for midterm, we would like to have the Sustainable Packaging Act and Recycling Centres, and for long-term, we would like to establish the volume-based waste fee system. Therefore, we are proud to propose the policies to save the seas. Thank you.